Today, we're talking about the latest injury update around Jayden Ivey and Anfernee Simons. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Monis Bazelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're talking about the latest injury update around Jayden Ivey and Anfernee Simons. And so got a chance to see this article that was posted yesterday on Hoops Rumor. And so we get some updates here around both players. And so it looks like that both players are going to be reevaluated. And so for Anfernee Simons, it looks like that it is going to be 10 days and he is going to be reevaluated. And then for Jayden Ivey, it looks like that it is going to be a week and then he is going to be reevaluated. And so wanted to talk about really what this means, for the Chicago Bulls right now as they continue to finish out this season and really what this could mean for the long term. And so starting with Anfernee Simons here. And so with Simons, look, I think that we've already saw what he can do. We know that he is a legitimate scorer, and I think that he would fit just fine alongside of Josh Giddey. And I think that we also see too defensively, that would be, I think a backcourt which would certainly need to get better between the two of those players. But we do know that with Simons and Josh Giddey, they can certainly fill it up as far as scoring the basketball and everything else. And so I think that you see the natural fit there with Simons. And also, too, with Simons, look, I think that he also would fit the Chicago Bulls timeline. And so I think that that's another thing that you would have to think about with possibly bringing him back. But like I said before, the scoring is definitely there for him at 15.2 points per game this season with the Chicago Bulls. And then also, too, he is getting it done at the free throw line. And so he has not missed there. And then when you look at the 3-point percentage, it has taken a little bit of a dip here with the Chicago Bulls. And so he was shooting 39.5% with the Celtics, and he's just at 32% for the Bulls. But I would expect for that to get right back up there, especially as he gets more acclimated, with the play and everything else as far as the sets and everything that they want to do with the offensive philosophy and stuff like that. So I think that Simons will be just fine. And I would say this, with him, should the Bulls bring him back, I would say yes, if you want to go ahead and you want to just see some more and see what he could do, alongside of Jalen Smith, Trey Jones, now that Josh Giddey is really rolling here. So I think that you would get, even more of an evaluation period and see, okay, this is our young core players. Does he fit with Monis Bazelis and everything else? And so I could see that as a yes for wanting to go ahead and bring him back. Then on the flip side of that, I could see that maybe there's no rush to bring him back, especially if the Bulls are trying to really concentrate on draft position and everything else. I mean, that's a different discussion. I never really talk about the tanking situation, even though it's real. But, I think that, that would probably be the other side of this thing is that, okay, look, they're trying to go ahead and focus on that. And then also, too, maybe you want to continue to maybe take a look at some other players out there, because I do think that with Simons out and then also to Sexton and then also to Isaac Okoro, that has given some other players some opportunity. And so Leonard Miller and then also too with Rob Dillingham, these players have been able to step in there. And so I would want to continue to see that go. I wouldn't want, Simons or anybody else kind of coming back and just kind of taking away from that, especially if you're looking at maybe Miller and then Rob Dillingham being more of a long-term fit, and maybe you don't see yourself bringing back Simons, then I could see, hey, maybe that's a reason why not to maybe rush him back. And so you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking there. And then as far as Jayden Ivey here, and so with Jayden Ivey, look, I think that with him, he has been solid so far with the Bulls. I mean, I think that we all see that, yes, he hasn't quite been, as, just dynamic and athletic as we've seen before when he was with the Detroit Pistons and everything else, because he's still trying to work his way back, from those leg injuries and things like that. But make no mistake about it, I mean, he's still averaging double figures here with the Bulls at 11.5 points. The minutes are at 28.8 minutes. And so that's up from the 16.8 earlier with the Detroit Pistons. And so he's already showing that, look, he can definitely handle the minutes. And so I think that if he he can get healthy here, you're looking at a player that I think can get back to being at that 17 to 20 points a night type of score. Can he increase a little bit more with the assists and the rebounds? I think he can. And I also think, too, he could really add some value, I think, defensively as far as getting steals and things like that. And so he's at 2 steals right now with the Chicago Bulls. And so I think that that could definitely go up, especially as he recovers and just gets back to being, just quick and just really believing in his athleticism again. And so he's shooting the basketball pretty well. He's at 38.1% from downtown with the Chicago Bulls. He's shooting 88.9% from the free throw line and 41.7% from the field. So I think that that also will go up, once he kind of gets comfortable and everything else. But I do think that Jayden Ivey is certainly headed back to the Chicago Bulls this season. Like, I do think that he's going to play again. I know that, it's a reevaluation on both of these players. And so, look, they could look at these players in a week or 10 days and say, look, they're not ready. And so I could see that happening. But I do think that Jayden Ivey is probably a bit more closer than Simons because he's already reportedly practice with the G League team, and so with the Windy City Bulls. And so that would suggest that he's back to some normal practice activities. And so I would think that, look, if he's able to do that and, he's able to maybe go out and scrimmage and stuff like that and they feel good, maybe they throw him back out there. And I think that the importance here is that he's going to be heading into restricted free agency. And so I think that, look, if you get a chance to look at him over the last 10, 12 games or so, or whatever it's going to look like when he comes back, you get a chance to really figure out, okay, is he a long-term piece with the Chicago Bulls? I do think that when they made that trade with the Detroit Pistons, I think that they look at Jayden Ivey as a long-term piece, and I think that he certainly can be that piece. Again, I like the upside with him. It's just a matter of getting the confidence back. Again, just getting the strengthening back in the knee, which is what they were looking to do, is just strengthen up that sore knee. And he's just got to get back to being confident again. And so I think that Jayden Ivey can do so. And I think right now, even if he comes back, he plays those 10 games and he's okay, as far as just being fair, he doesn't necessarily like jump off the page or anything like that. I do think that the Bulls maybe can bring him back on a team-friendly deal. I think that that is certainly going to happen, especially, with the way that things have gone with him trying to get back from this injury and everything else. And so we'll see what happens. You got to keep in mind that both players will have to do a little bit of a ramp-up period. And so that also could play a factor into how many games that these players get a chance to play. And also, too, you got to think about that ramp-up period with the minutes restriction. And so that's another thing, too, as far as trying to get the evaluation and seeing what you have with both of these players. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking about this latest injury update around Simons and Ivey. Once again, this was the tweet that came out from the Chicago Bulls. And so this was in this article. If you go to this article on Hoops Rumors, you'll be able to see that tweet in there. If you click into that article, that takes you to this link to this. And, it just says that, look, reevaluations in 10 days for Simons, and then also, too, a reevaluation in a week for Ivey. And again, I think that Ivey a bit more closer to a return than Simons. And so just because they're going to reevaluate Simons, it doesn't mean that, he's coming back necessarily. I mean, both of these players, again, still have to go through ramp ups and all that other stuff. But anyhow, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. Should these players come back? Should the Bulls shut them down? I'd like to know what you guys are thinking. And so, as we always say, look, go Bulls. And I will see you guys in the next one. All right. Peace.